Hi everyone, my name is Vivian and the article I will be presenting today is Association of Step Volume and Intensity with All-Cause Mortality in Older Women. So to provide some background, this article is from the journal JAMA Internal Medicine. It has an impact factor of 18.652 and was published just last year, May 29 of 2019. This research was supported by grants from the National Health Institute. The staff and the participants of this study did not receive any compensation for their contribution to this research project. Over here, I've listed the author and their affiliations, and as you can see, these authors have very esteemed affiliations such as Harvard, the National Institute of Aging, the University of Tokyo, the University of Tennessee, as well as the National Cancer Institute. 10,000 steps per day is a goal number commonly believed by the public to be the magic number, but it doesn't really have much evidence backing it up. The average steps daily in the U.S. is approximately 4,800 steps per day, and worldwide it is 5,000. There is limited information out there on how many steps are required daily for health, and it's also unknown how stepping intensity is associated with health. This study uses wearable technology that tracks a person's physical activity to answer the questions: how many steps per day are associated with lower mortality rates, and for a given step volume, is the intensity of stepping related to mortality rate? The objective of this study was to examine associations of number of steps per day and stepping intensity with all-cause mortality. The question being asked is, are increased numbers of steps per day associated with lower mortality rates in older women? This cohort study included 18,289 U.S. women from the Women's Health Study who agreed to participate by wearing an accelerometer during waking hours for 7 consecutive days. This took place from 2011 through 2015. An Actigraph GT3X Plus accelerometer was mailed to all participants to be worn on the hip for 7 consecutive days. It could only be taken off for water-based activities and to go to sleep. The devices were then returned by mail to be screened for data. Of the 18,000 plus women, 17,708 women wore and returned the accelerometer by mail. Data was successfully downloaded from 17,446 devices. The other 242 women's data could not be used because of device failure. Only women that wore the device for 10 hours per day or more for 4 days or more were included, which was 16,741 women. The accelerometer data was collected at 30 Hz and aggregated into 60-second time-stamped epochs using the normal filter. Steps per day were then determined using the manufacturer's step algorithm. To calculate step volume, steps across all compliant days were summed up and divided by the number of compliant days to obtain mean steps per day. Annual questionnaires were completed by the participants about their demographics, health habits, as well as personal and family medical history. The information from the questionnaires was then used to determine many other variables such as height, weight, alcohol use, smoking status, diabetes, and a handful of other things. The women were followed through December 31st of 2017. Their deaths were reported by family members or postal authorities along with their medical records and death certificates for confirmation. Alternatively, they were obtained through the National Death Index. Mortality follow-up was more than 99% complete. Women were categorized into quartiles of mean steps per day, and characteristics were compared across quartiles. Model 1 estimated hazard ratios and adjusted for weight and accelerometer wear time. Model 2 was additionally adjusted for potential co-founders such as smoking, alcohol use, intakes of saturated fat, fiber, fruits and vegetables, postmenopausal hormone therapy, self-rated health, CVD, cancer, parental history of myocardial infarction before the age of 60, and family history of cancer. Model 3 further adjusted for mediators that could possibly influence mortality rate, such as BMI, history of hypertension, diabetes, and high cholesterol. Model 4 was additionally adjusted for stepping intensity, because women who accrue more steps daily are also more likely to have a higher step intensity. A sensitivity analysis was conducted to minimize reverse causation bias, which is unforeseen factors resulting from women getting sick and decreasing their steps. This analysis excluded the first year of follow-up and women with prevalent CVD, cancer, or diabetes, women self-reporting their health as less than excellent or good, and women with a BMI less than 18.5 kilograms per meter squared. Women that were included in the analysis had a mean age of 72 at the baseline, the range being 62 to 101. They were compliant with device wear, meaning they wore it for 10 hours or more each day on a median of 7 days. The mean step count was 5,499 steps per day, and the mean device wear was 14.9 hours per day. For step intensity, the peak 1-minute cadence was 92 steps per minute, meaning that was the number of steps recorded for the single highest minute of the day. The peak 30-minute cadence was 58 steps per minute, which is the mean steps per minute from the highest 30 minutes of the day, but the minutes did not have to be consecutive. The mean maximum 5-minute cadence was 63 steps per minute, which is the mean steps per minute from the maximum number of steps recorded over any 5 continuous minutes of the day. During the average follow-up of 4.3 years, 504 women died. The absolute rate reduction comparing extreme quartiles was 9.3 deaths per 1,000 person years. For every additional 1,000 steps per day, the hazard ratio declined by 15%. Steps were examined in discrete 1,000 steps per day categories that were compared against 2,000 steps per day or fewer. So looking at figure A, you can see that it starts at 2,000 steps or less, and the number of women is 878. Of those women, there were 108 deaths, which is roughly 12%, which is a fairly large percentage. But for every additional 1,000 steps, you can see there's a pretty significant decline in the number of deaths seen. The dose-response curve showed a steady decline in hazard ratios with more steps per day until approximately 7,500 steps. That decline can be seen down here in figure B. And as you can see, at 7,500 steps, it starts to level out. In this study, it was observed that the step volume of 4,400 steps per day was associated with a 41% in mortality rate compared to a step volume of 2,700 steps per day. A steady decline was observed with increased step volume until approximately 7,500 steps per day. After accounting for number of steps taken, the results for stepping intensity were no longer significant. These results suggest that step volume may be more important in this population rather than step intensity. A possible issue from this study is the validity of step counts. In another study, it compared the present study device with commercial stepping devices such as a Fitbit, and the correlations were very high for step counts. Where the active graph counted approximately 7,400 steps, the Fitbit counted approximately 8,100 steps. So, to discuss credibility of this article, A major strength from this study was that it had a large sample size of over 18,000 women participants. Additionally, sensitivity analyses were conducted to minimize bias from reverse causation. JAMA Internal Medicine is a peer-reviewed journal that is published by American Medical Association. As of 2019, their impact factor is 18.652, ranking it 7th out of 165 journals in its category. For key points, women who averaged approximately 4,400 steps per day had significantly lower mortality rates during a follow-up of 4.3 years compared with the least active women who took approximately 2,700 steps per day. The more steps taken per day are associated with lower mortality rate until approximately 7,500 steps per day. Some limitations of this study were observational design. Even though sensitivity analysis were conducted, there is still a possibility for reverse causation bias. Diet information was obtained from the participants before the women's health study, but it was not obtained at device wear. Only women who could walk outside of their homes without any assistance were able to participate in this study, so there weren't any detailed measures on disability and depression during device wear. The participants from this study were primarily white, of higher socioeconomic status, and were more active compared to a national sample. The mean steps per day for the study participants was 5,499 steps per day, whereas the mean steps from the national sample was 4,027 steps per day. Lastly, only all-cause mortality was investigated in this study. But with a longer follow-up and larger number of clinical end reports, such as cancer, other health outcomes could be investigated in future studies. Thank you.